Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning. I apologize for all of the mishaps this morning. We have had some technical difficulties this morning. So I wanted to come on ahead of everybody and let you guys know that we are going live shortly. So without further ado, let's try to get this morning started. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is James, your host here for the Table Talk with James. Good morning, everybody. This is James here, your host of the Table Talk with James. I would like to thank you guys for tuning in this morning, for all of your support and all of your happiness that you have given unto us. The critical race theory is a subject that I've been trying to undertake for some time now. So let's get ready to hit some of the buttons that don't want to be pushed. Here this morning, I am your host, James Fed, with the Table Talk. So let's get right here and get started with this show. Okay, we are ready and going live. Critical race theory examines society's understanding of race and how it's informed by various power dynamics. Now, in order to understand this theory, it's important to note what critical race theory is not. And most people cannot distinguish what it is and what it isn't. It does not claim that race is fiction or that racial categories are meaningless. Rather, it asserts that they are a social construct created by humans. And we all know that the things that are created by humans can have lots of error because we're not perfect. The critical race theorists believe that there are systematic problems with how society understands and deals with racism. Racism and racially based outcomes, they are systematic and widespread with implicit racism. Now, this differs from other scholarly discussions of racism, where racism is an explicit act that people intentionally engage in, and sometimes they don't intentionally engage in. And we have to take in consideration that there's a lot of things that go across the board that we have control of and we don't have control of. So when we look at those things and we act upon those things, sometimes it's an impulse. So theorists, they investigated how racial disparities occur in society. Critical race theory began to gain public attention during a time of political backlash against progress made in racial justice, i.e., the the George Ferguson case. Many people use critical race theory in order to understand how racial disparities affect societal outcomes. Now, that can go in many different ways, guys. We can look at it from the inside of the box, or we can look at it from the outside. And I would like to look at it from the inside. Critical critiques of the critical race theory often state that it promotes reverse racism. Now, critical race theorists believe that claims of reverse racism are an attempt to silence discussion about racism. Theorists also believe that in order to address issues like oppression, it honestly it is necessary to understand how power and privilege influences institutions, i.e., our government, how it's ran, how the presidential office is ran. You know, there are situations and things that we look at and we may think that they are what they really aren't. Now, there are several states that have proposed bills banning the teaching of critical race theory, which is not good. Critics want the idea of critical race theory removed from their curriculum. Proponents of the bill believe that banning critical race theory in schools will prevent schools from adopting this worldview. They also believe that it will always and it will allow educators to teach more traditional ideas than non-traditional. Most critics don't even understand what critical race theory is before they try to ban it. And that's bad, i.e., some of our senators. Critics often argue that critical race theory should be replaced with an approach that focuses on individual rights and doesn't include discussions about systems of discrimination or the oppression. Now, we could go back and look in history how these things have really changed the fabric of America and how those things have also shaped public policy. Public policy has been changed in so many different ways, and we have not yet begun to even understand the implications as to why. So these are some of the things that we will be discussing today here on the Table Talk with James. Our special guest host, she has not been able to get on the internet because we have had these problems this morning with our connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move along with the show as best as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break here, right here on Riverside FM, RSS.com, and YouTube Live. And we will be back momentarily. This is your boy, James, with the Table Talk with James, here live. On the other half of the break, when we come back, we will have some reels from some of our politicians and some of our national stars with some comments and some sound bits. Right here on the Table Talk with James. Let's go. Station break. All right, guys, we are back here on Riverside.fm. Those of you here that are on YouTube, you guys didn't hear the commercial break because it is a station break. Because I have to go through some notes while we're on the station break. All right, guys, we have had some luck that we have some excerpts from some local officials. Let's go ahead and pay attention and listen in on some of the sound bites that we have for it this morning. I'm waiting for them to cue that up. And ladies and gentlemen, you may hear a little bit of noise in the background. I'm having some work done in my home, so just for you guys to know. All right, guys, and that was some excerpts that we were hearing from some of our local politicians, national politicians, on this critical race theory. So here is one of the main issues. One of the main issues is we don't know what really the effects have on us here in this country with this critical race theory. Critical race theory can be seen, as I stated before, in many different aspects in different lights. So on the following part, when we come back at the top of the hour, after this commercial break, we will go into a little bit more. I have a little bit more commentary for you, and hopefully we will be able to answer some questions here on the Table Talk with James, live on YouTube, RSS.com, and Riverside.fm.
serious. Looking at the way that law has been a conduit for racial inequality. This is not about the substance of critical race theory. This is about brand. Conservatives need to wake up that this is an existential threat to the United States.
All right, guys, we are back again. Now, here's the question that most of you guys are probably asking yourselves. Is critical race theory a way of understanding how American racism has shaped public policy or divisive discourse? In that divisive discourse, it puts people of color against white people. Liberals and conservatives are in sharp disagreement. That is what today's show is about. All right, guys, thank you. So, with us visiting this critical race theory, a lot of people would say that, we are, how can I say it? We are being over excited or pushing the issue too far. Well, we've been pushing the issue far on a lot of things here in this country, and a lot of things have been worked upon and a lot of things have not been. So my thought was, is this just something to just go ahead and to make a distraction attempt so that we could not pay attention to what is in hindsight? Now, we've had so much going on in the news, whether it was with Donald Trump or with local politicians that may have or may have not made a good decision to control their mouths. I.e., there's another issue that's going on that has not been passed by Senate yet, but it's been in the House of Representatives since mid-part summer. And we're getting ready to go into another year, 2023. And we still have not yet had a vote on the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That's just like with this critical race theory. This was going on last year before Donald Trump even got out of office, during he was in office. We had a lot of senators on the floor, and I won't say no names today. I don't want no direct attacks from them, because you know how the government is. If you don't fit in where they are in, they'll come out and get you. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist nor am I worried about them, because it is freedom of speech. But here's my call up to the politicians. It's time for you guys to start doing your jobs, because social media is taking over the world. A lot of the children are right now involved in a lot of the political movements that is going on. So I want to urge you politicians to get up right, to do right, and to live right, so that our country can be right. That is the only way that we're going to move somewhere in life. Now, on tomorrow's show, We're going to get more in depth in it. I have a white supremacist that's going to come online tomorrow, and we're going to get his take on it. And I'm going to ask that all those who are in my audience, if you guys will be very respectful to the fact that we have a lot of ignorant people still living in our country, still on their own ideology and belief system that they are right. But I will say this. I serve a God that is a mighty God and an awesome God, and he has control of all. No one goes under no power but under his power. No one is lowlier than the devil in God's eyes. Let's take a moment and think about where our predecessors were, what they had to go through just to get where we are today. And while you're taking that moment to have this thought, I'm going to take a break and show you guys, well, allow you to hear, a little bit more of those outtake sound bites.
Transition period, right? Because that's when right-wing conservative radio really started to have this impact on the national discourse around race. The question is whether President Clinton wants to go through the big national debate as to whether this is the kind of person that's going to bring harmony between and among the races, or if this is not. They clearly lend themselves to interpretations that do not represent the views that I expressed on civil rights. I want to make it clear that that is not to say that I agree with all the attacks on her.
I have always believed in democracy, and nothing I have ever written is inconsistent with that.
Barack Obama. Well, I've got videos, by the way. When he was at Harvard, he was advocating for the worst of the worst to join the faculty. Radicals. I remember engaging and speaking the talk.
What part of that was the bombshell?
Derek Bell is the Jeremiah Wright of academia. He developed a theory called critical race theory, which holds that the civil rights movement was a sham and that white supremacy is the order and it must be overthrown.
So that is a complete misreading of critical race theory. Slavery gives contradiction to our entire creation story of the United States, and so we've tried to push it aside. What we're trying to do with this project is force us to confront the truth.
The whole project is a lie. So you're an African American. Slavery is at the center of what you see as the American experience. But for most Americans, most of the time, there were a lot of other things going on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was one of our former senators, Gingrich, with the last comments that were made right there. Now, simply put, critical race theory states that U.S. social institutions, i.e. the criminal justice system, labor markets, housing markets, and healthcare systems, are laced with racism embedded in laws, registrations, rules, and procedures that lead to differential outcomes by race. Now, critics would say that this is harming America right now. Now, we also believe that critical race theory is in our schools more than ever. Now, it's been injected into our society behind closed doors for decades. Just like a lot of things in this country. What's done in the dark will stay in the dark, as they think. But that's not true. So I have another 60 seconds of these sound bits that I want to play.
It's really ugly stuff, and it's absolutely a disgrace that it's something that is happening with taxpayer money to the tune of millions of dollars.
We'll do that another time. Hold on, I need a drink.
Every educator should be able to have in-depth conversations with their students about race issues in America. Race will not
I'm going to throw a measurement at you, right?
Okay, guys. That noise you hear in the background, guys, that's the two guys that are actually here working at the home, getting my floors and things done. Real good guys. Mr. George and Mr. Frank. They've been working pretty tirelessly on these floors, and they look good, guys. So now, in my last 2 minutes of the hearing this morning, because we did start out pretty late, so I've only got 30 minutes on the show today. What I want to leave you guys with, and I will start back at this point on tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, live here on YouTube. The critical race theory, the academic concept, has become a fixture in the fierce U.S. debate over how to teach children about the country's history and race relations. Conservatives have invoked the term in schools and state houses nationwide. Now that's to denounce the curricula and policies they consider too liberal. However, this term is widely misunderstood and misused. Critical race theory is an approach to study U.S. policies and institutions that is most often taught in schools and in law schools. Its foundations date back to the 1970s when law professors, including Harvard Law School Derek Bell, began exploring how race and racism have shaped American law and society. Now, the theory rests on the premises that racial biases, intentional or not, is baked into U.S. laws and institutions. Black Americans, for example, are incarcerated at a much higher rate than any other group. And the theory invites scrutiny of the criminal justice system law in that. And there are statistics that are proven that blacks and browns are the least likely, or excuse me, I wouldn't say the least likely, or less addicted than other races. An often cited illustration is the America's war on drugs, as I was just getting ready to state. The 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act established harsher penalties for possession of crack cocaine than those of powder cocaine. Black Americans are more likely to be convicted of the former and whites the latter. Within 4 years, average federal drug sentences for Black offenders were 49% higher than those handed out to the white offenders, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. Now, what I say about statistics, they can go one way or the other, good or bad. It depends on where your mindset is, where your thought pattern goes when it comes to that. Now, we know that today racism sustains more through law, policy, and practices than through individual biases and discrimination. So, the term gained at the foothold in the conservative American consciousness in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd, a Black man, by a white Minneapolis police officer, an event that sparked a national reckoning on race. Individuals and institutions began grappling with how racism persisted in American society. Despite the end of blatant racism, segregation policies of the Civil Rights era. Now, on September 1st, conservative journalist and researcher Christopher Rufo went on a Fox News to decree that the anti-bias training happening in federal agencies as an example of critical race theory, he described as a radical ideology sowing racial divisions in educations. Wow. Folks, that and more tomorrow here on the Table Talk. We will ask again, those of you that will be tuning in live and via the YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or on the chat line, we're going to ask you to refrain from any backlashing against my guest that I'm having on tomorrow. I am going to remind you that he is